Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 6 of Passing the Torch, the podcast by GrowthMentor. My name is Marcus, and today I'm going to be talking to Mr. Morgan Schoefield. Morgan is a super seasoned marketer, and he has a lot to tell us about the way he became a mentor and how he learned to also ask the right questions. Again, I'm not going to tell you that much more, so you can listen to his story. And of course, I want to invite you to follow our podcast, follow our social media channels, talk to us. We're happy to talk to you. And of course, join the Growth Mentor Network so you can learn, you can grow, you can create, you can thrive. I'm very poetic today. So without further ado, let me leave you with the podcast episode number 6. Welcome back. Hello, Mr. Morgan. How are you doing today?
Hello, Marcos. I'm well. How are you, sir?
Not bad, not bad. Sorry, I wanted to call you Mr. Morgan, like my favorite character from Red Dead Redemption 2, Mr. Arthur Morgan. So, Morgan, we have a few stories that we want to share, but I have to start by basically saying like why we invited you, because you're part of the Growth Mentor family as well. So, I wanted to start by asking you, like, how did you end up in Growth Mentor? Were you looking for help? Were you offering help? Are you still there? Are you a mentor now? What's your story with our friends of GM?
Yeah, so I've pretty much always been a mentor, and of course always a mentee as well. I truly believe that life is a learning journey, and anytime you can capitalize on the amazing mentors on Growth Mentor is awesome. So I started my Growth Mentor journey really during or after I was working for another mentor actually on the platform, Mike Taylor, who built and ran Ladder Growth Agency, which I was a part of.
Oh, and I know Ladder.
Yeah, Ladder's awesome. Ladder's got a long history in Growth Mentor. Yeah, there's quite a few ex-Ladder employees at Growth Mentor. So after seeing some of my colleagues and of course Mike, the co-founder, go to Growth Mentor, I'm pretty sure I reached out to Foti, and we had a chat. My position at the time was my set of skills was relatively unique. It's less unique now, but at the time it was quite unique because back in kind of 20 whatever it was, 17, 18, 19ish, I was kind of the blockchain guy. I've got a long background with blockchain, and also a growth marketer. So seemingly a really good fit and a unique kind of category for Growth Mentor.
That was quite early too, right? I mean, blockchain, that was when people started talking about blockchain as a big thing.
Yeah. Around that time, it was really starting to kind of take off. Yeah, exactly. So whenever Foti would get a request for a blockchain related, startup or technology, he'd go, hey, go speak to Morgan. And so I kind of became the blockchain guy for Growth Mentors. Luckily now there's quite a few of us on the platform, so there's a range of experience on there. But one funny story, I actually got a job through Growth Mentor, and I still have the screenshots of the
conversation.
Yeah, of the conversation.
Nice.
So I worked at Salad. I was the marketing director at Salad, which is a company that allows teenagers to outsource their high-power GPUs and gaming rigs when they're at school or away from their computer. And in return, they don't get money, but they get, gift cards and Steam rewards, so they can buy games like Red Dead Redemption and others, right? So for a young person who doesn't necessarily have a lot of money and needs parents' permission to buy stuff, it was a very attractive business model. And founder came onto the platform wanting to grow his business. And as I was saying, like Foti said, hey, just go speak to Morgan. And in one interaction with him, 1 hour call, I managed to make such an impression that he sent me a LinkedIn message afterwards and said, Morgan, you made such a great impression. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I want to hire you. Are you available? Let's do business together. And that was it. I became marketing director of that company, and the rest is history. So Growth Mentor has given me personally amazing opportunities, and I'm super grateful to Foti and Jessica.
That is awesome, man. Like, were you open to work at that time, or look, this is a great opportunity, I want to take it? How that happened?
I think it was an opportunity. I think it was a step up in certainly job title. I was going from kind of a head of position to a director, which has a little bit of gravitas to it.
Absolutely.
And it was an really exciting opportunity because I still think, I'm not part of their business, but I still think what they're doing is actually, especially with AI, where AI is coming now, being able to share your compute of your machine and have this decentralized-ish compute network is incredibly powerful proposition. And those guys are doing well. I keep up with them now and then. And, always leave a good impression.
I'm going to have to ask you more about Salad because that sounds like a really cool business model. I mean, I wouldn't think of renting my computer capacity for it. Now, when you were mentoring these people, right? Like you talked to the guy from Salad, look, you give him. When did you, or what were the skills that you had that you said, look, I'm just going to drop all this on them to help? I mean, because obviously you were not looking for a job; it just the opportunity showed up, which is amazing. But what were sort of the set skills that you felt comfortable with? And like, look, I'm going to put all of these on the table and see what happens.
Yeah, I think having I think one thing that's benefited me over my career is having a very kind of conversion-based mindset. And what do I mean by this? What I mean is I think a lot of people conflate or get confused as to why we do marketing, right? And that people can start to chase kind of the vanity metrics and feel like they're making progress. And then, in 3 months' time, scratching their head going, but I'm not making more money. I don't get it. More followers should equal more money, right?
I wish.
I wish, exactly. So, being able to Ladder, actually, I credit Ladder to this and Mike Taylor because the skill set that they gave me, especially working across a range of clients, and anyone listening to this who's kind of thinking about a marketing career or is in somewhere in between at the beginning of their marketing career, highly recommend looking out for agency-related jobs because the skill sets it gives you when you're able to address a wide range of clients with very different business needs and jump in and understand the fundamentals of what it takes to grow a business and the mindset and mental models that you have to walk through when you're problem solving fundamentally what a founder needs and wants to see for their business. So I think a lot of the value I gave as a mentor was like, what's the ultimate conversion goal here? Like, what is the crux of the problem that we're trying to discuss and solve here? And going from that endpoint of where do we actually make money and working back into, okay, well, if in this case with Salad, if we're continuing on using them and as an example, they wanted to download a PC app. And that contains its own challenges because it's not a web-based app. You're actually downloading a file and antivirus problems and all sorts come into play. There's also attribution problems when you're tracking because you're no longer in the browser in a web-based kind of model. You're actually going into a native app. So that presents some issues. And so just walking through kind of a funnel mindset of like, here's the endpoint and here's how we work it back. How's your landing page converting? Are you actually speaking to your customer or are you writing in a way that makes you feel good because you think you're explaining your business, but when someone reads it, they're like, I have no idea.
We just not get it.
I don't know what value you bring to my life. You've just told me what your functions are, So it's small things like this that I think once you have this mindset shift and once you have the experience and the confidence in your own knowledge as well to go, look, I can make small changes here. And actually you're going to see, at the very least, you're going to get some feedback and see some results with these changes. And then we can iterate from there. I think that often with the mentees I speak to, has a huge value. An analogy, it's something I've been thinking about that comes to mind right now. So the audience this may resonate with the audience. I find myself when you're in the midst of a problem, it sometimes is very hard to zoom out and get perspective of the problem that you're facing because to some degree it becomes quite personal. You're quite attached. And so having someone, a coach, a mentor, even just a friend, be able to go, hey, have you thought about this? Have you tried this? And you go, oh, it seems so simple. It seems so obvious now. Of course. Yeah. Okay. I'll go do that. The power of that should not be underestimated. And actually the way I also start to think about my own problems in my own life is like that. If I were a mental model and a kind of mantra I have for myself is if I was a mentee and I was mentoring this person with this problem, what would I say to them? And this mindset, this mental model kind of detaches you somewhat from the problem, and you're able to kind of have that perspective shift and go, oh, okay, now I can see some of the simple changes. Right, okay, let's go do that. And all of that, anxiety when you're in the problem just kind of dissipates. So
now, in your experience, because I remember talking to a few people from Ladder throughout my life, and there was always a common sort of theme, right? It's you test until find out what things work. In your sort of position as a mentor, or when you talk to different companies that you're working with, is there some sort of a pushback on the testing idea? Is it like sometimes you feel like, well, no, we don't want to test. We want you to tell us what works. And then you have to go, obviously, like, no, we need to test. Like, do you still feel that pushback, or you feel that people are a little bit more open into, okay, marketing is a testing game. Let's go for it.
I think it is. I think actually business is a testing game, because ultimately you're operating in uncertainty, right? And Elon Musk has this quote of, building a business is like staring into the abyss and chewing glass. And it's kind of true, right? At the end of the day, you have a vision of what you want to do, but that is not a strategy. That is just a desired outcome. And at any given point, your customers can give you feedback of like, actually, this is not what you need to solve in my life. This is the problem you're actually solving. So having this experimental mindset and being able to test things, again, it kind of detaches you from the problem as well. It does two things, right? It allows you to have small scope tests that if it's just a landing page, or maybe it's a feature in your product, or, if you're managing a community or building a community, there's things you can do in there that test and scale, So I really think this experimental mindset is very important, not just in marketing, but in business as well. But the caveat there, and actually an ex-Ladder colleague of mine and a very close friend, we text, and we were just texting this morning, John, Positive John, he's known as John Ostrowski.
World famous man.
Yes, world famous on GrowthMentor. He's awesome. I think I mispronounced his surname. He'll have to forgive me if he's watching this. But anyway, he says, we're not running a laboratory here. We're running a business. So at the same time, you can't, you can be data-driven and data-led and experimental mindset, but you shouldn't be so attached to the data that also causes this kind of analysis paralysis. And, if the data's not giving me absolute certainty, then maybe I won't take action. No, at the end of the day, no data that you get, no amount of feedback that you get is going to be 100% perfect. There's always uncertainty. And so you just it's your job to operate with the best knowledge you can at that point of time, and then just iterate and evolve and just keep going. Yeah, keep going.
That's that's something we talked in the previous episode too. It's just sometimes you just got to start. It doesn't matter what you know, what you don't know. It's just sort of taking that first step that will take you further. Now, before we started talking, I was looking at your LinkedIn profile, and I don't get to talk to a lot of people involved in Web3 and blockchain and stuff like that. Like, it really popped. Like, oh, wow, Morgan is super proud of Web3, and at the same time, Web3 gets this sort of bad name, if you want to call it, like a bad reputation on like, this is just basically all scams. And marketing has a huge role here, which is usually you need to educate your customer on everything that you're doing, right? You need to show them that you need to make them trust in whatever you're doing. So in your experience, not only as a mentor in companies, but doing what you're doing right now, how do you break that barrier? How do you make people trust in this whole new world of blockchain? It's not just crypto scams, and Web3 is way beyond metaverse or whatever you want to call it, right?
Yes.
How do you do that?
Yeah, good question.
It's totally a personal question, because I have no clue.
I want to approach this in a couple of ways. So I'll give you a little bit of background of my kind of journey in Web3 and why I am in Web3 as well. I actually got into Bitcoin when there was only really Bitcoin and Litecoin, maybe some colored coins and maybe Mastercoin at the time. So back in 2012, I was studying my master's in mechanical engineering, and a friend invited me to a hackathon in Berlin called Campus Party. And whilst I was there, I met this really cool guy, John Draper, who's known as Captain Crunch in the like Apple world. Apple fans will know him because he's responsible for the phone phreaking, and with Steve Jobs and Wozniak back in the day, he helped them build the first like these little blue boxes that would phreak phones, and kind of was one of the uncredited kind of founders of Apple before Apple was Apple.
All right.
Anyway, it's a very impressive guy. I think he's in his 80s now. Anyway, he's always been kind of the head of the tech curve. And he was like, hey, you should check out this Bitcoin thing. It's really cool. It's like digital money. It's going to change the way we think about money in the world. And, you know, all of the kind of 2008 financial crisis and everything we'd just seen a few years ago, you know, this is the next wave. And so it kind of sat with me for a few months. And then when I went back to university, I was very fortunate that at university I had some high-powered computer-aided design machines. I was like, do you know, I think I might make some Bitcoin with these. So I went to a couple of machines and, you know, had some USB sticks and you know, without the IT department necessarily knowing, I'm sure they cottoned on at some point, but I made a few Bitcoin, you know. Now it's worth a lot of money. Back then it was worth like $5, you know, nothing. And I was at that point in my life where I was graduating from university, and I had a choice, a fork in the road, you know. Do I go down this engineering career path and become an engineer? Or, you know, this Bitcoin thing is interesting. And especially at that time, the thing I was scratching my head with and assessing my own skill set was like, you know, I like engineering when it's the project side of engineering, how you manage a project, how you bring something to life. But what I'm not super into is all the nitty gritty design stuff. Like, I'm fine if someone else handles that. I can do it, but there's people way better than me at that. So, you know, it was a kind of a head scratch for me. Well, what does that mean? Do I want to be a project manager? And eventually the questions evolved into, well, what I want to do is grow businesses. I want to work with really senior people in businesses, business leaders, and I want to grow projects into businesses. And that's actually how I got started at Ladder. Whilst I was interviewing with Mike at Ladder, I was also interviewing for engineering jobs, and the rest is history. And so I've worked with crypto exchanges. I helped build the kind of blockchain discipline at Ladder. I've worked with NFT projects with Reality Gaming Group, now Reality Plus. We can talk about that a little bit. Salad, which I mentioned earlier. And others in DAOs and things like this. So I've personally seen a lot of the spectrum of what Web3 is, what crypto entails. Now, when it comes to trust, the thing with crypto, unlike many other businesses, is there is always a financial incentive, right? So even if you look back to kind of the dot-com bubble in the early 2000s, when founders were just buying domains with a .com thing, going to VCs and saying, hey, pay me millions because I've got like balls.com and I sell tennis balls, right? And I'm worth millions, sure. So you always get these, you know, it's part of the hype cycle. You always get the kind of cowboys and their have-a-go Harrys coming into a new technology because it's exciting. Why not? They should. The difference with crypto is, of course, there's that financial incentive. So I think the first kind of time where it was exciting, but also you got a lot of this bad players in the mix was when ICOs came into play. So ICO is an initial coin offering. So much like the dot-com bubble, people were able to start a business. They created this token, and then people could buy the token, which is kind of a share of their business very loosely. And a lot of them failed. I mean, at the end of the day, 9 out of 10 businesses fail. Right?
Yeah, I mean, that's a common, doesn't matter if it's crypto or not. It's just...
Exactly. The difference being, we're not talking VCs investing in balls.com with millions and they expect to lose a lot of money. We're now talking retail investors, mom and dads who don't have the money to lose, who would get very upset if you lie to them and fool them, right? Rightly so. Sadly, you know, we don't have... outside of the US, it's a lot better, but the US is going through this right now with regulation and how they think of the model for crypto. But I think a lot of the benefits of this technology is self-sovereignty, right? And what do I mean by that? You are a sovereign individual. If you own a wallet with money in it, it cannot be shut down. As long as it's not on an exchange, a centralized exchange, as long as it's in your own wallet, like a Ledger or a Trezor device, for example, no one can take that away from you forever, like forever. As long as the internet exists, your money will be locked in that wallet. The value of that money is for human beings. That's a different conversation. But regardless, you will have those coins, those tokens in that wallet, right? Same with NFTs. Now, I referred to the hype cycle earlier. This is kind of what I'm seeing with NFTs as well. We've gone through the wave where everyone's got the PFPs, the profile pictures, the Kongs and the monkeys and all of this. We've gone through that wave because people were excited by the technology, wanted to figure out what it could do, and the default, the easiest entry point was, let's just make some pictures, and now you own the picture. It's a digital representation that we've never in the history of the internet and humanity had before, right? So now you have a digital representation of ownership. Now, that wave's gone, right? Like a lot of that hype has died, and the $1 million NFTs, I don't particularly see those for profile pictures coming back. But where it gets really exciting is when you apply it to other things, right? So if David Beckham, for example, signs a football, I don't know if there's football fans listening, right? That football has value, especially if you can prove that it was him who signed it and you've got a picture or a certificate or whatever. And if you transfer the ownership of that football, you just sell it over time, it's likely to increase in value. If you zoom out over the decades, this is how things, art and other commodities and collectibles evolve, right? So yeah, like being able to transfer that in a digital manner without having to faff with intermediaries or have lawyers verify that the certificate, you can have a digital signature that is verifiable by you, by the network, by your computer, and have trust in that system is worth a lot, is very, very valuable. And we're at the very, very the cusp of what this technology can really do. Now, where I'm really excited for the next kind of wave of the technology, where I see Web 3 turning into Web 4, is identity. So identity is important in almost every part of our life, from we're talking about marketing here, right? So how do you attribute, how do you identify your customers? And there's positives and negatives there, right? We've seen GDPR and a lot of these regulations come through because there's exploitation.
Because it's a problem, exactly.
Right, exactly. But as a marketer, you growing a business, you actually want to attribute to your customer. You want to understand how many people are buying, what their behavior is. There's intrinsic incentive for you to be able to identify people and then reapproach them to buy more of your stuff. So I think the next evolution of, as well, the marketing stack is within your wallet, you will be able to have your identity. It will be owned by you and permissioned by you. This is the most important bit, permissioned by you only and retractable. So an example I share with my friends at kind of dinner parties is, I'm a fan, I like whiskey. I am a fan of whiskey. So, if I go to a whiskey shop, they need to know that I'm of age to buy whiskey so that I'm a legal age. But I don't want them to keep my age they don't need to store my age anywhere. If I was in person, they just need to see my ID and then that interaction's gone, right? But digitally, it's a little bit different. If I'm sharing my age by entering into a form, where's that data stored? How long is it stored? Do they need that data?
Yeah, and it's a problem for both sides too, right? Like they have to do something with your data and you have to keep your data safe.
Exactly. Yeah, and we know the GDPR stack. Where this gets really interesting is because you could verify that I am over age without having to know my age. And this is called a zero knowledge proof. So basically you have an algorithm that comes to my wallet, says, are you over 18 or 21? And my wallet goes, yes. And it goes, okay, great. I trust you. Here you go. You can buy some whiskey. But I don't need to know your age. I don't need to store that data, right? This we haven't really seen before. And this is going to be, in my opinion, the kind of next wave. And this is just one example of what this can do, And another example is with identity, it means that we are moving towards more of a kind of global society. Everyone kind of travels everywhere, interacts everywhere, works globally. Without getting to the politics, that doesn't matter. But you could essentially have someone in Kenya who has worked really, really hard, got their degree, you know, and has this list of qualifications of what they do and job experience, have that in their wallet, in their identity. And then if they want to move anywhere in the world, if they wanted to come to the UK and work, you know, they could prove what they've done without a shadow of a doubt. And then it becomes fungible. It becomes an interaction where you can say, well, you know, your Harvard degree in America is equivalent to an Oxford degree in the UK, is equivalent to, you know, name an excellent university elsewhere.
Without having to do hundreds and hundreds of papers.
Exactly. Without having to go, well, I've never heard of that university. That's complicated. I'm not sure, right? So this is really exciting because it means people can prove what they've done in a way that's trustless. I don't have to like call up the university or anything like this. I can verify it digitally at the point that we're talking and transacting. And who knows what that future looks like, right?
Look, I'm glad you gave me this little over, because I was losing my hope with Web3 and blockchain. I'm like, this is not going to happen. The same. I mean, I'm sort of in that mood with VR, AR with the Apple goggles, but that's a different story. Anyways.
Yeah.
So let me go back. I know it's going to be a big switch, but I want to go back to the conversation that we had in the beginning about you getting an offer out of conversation in GrowthMentor, right? For the people listening right now, like, do you think are the attributes that they caught up on you? I know we talk about the skills that you brought into GrowthMentor, but sort of what you recommend people who are getting into mentoring or getting into learning from mentors, like how that could work better for them? Like, what are the things they need to sort of be open to, or the attitude that need to go into it with? Any advice you can give to our newbies around?
Yeah, for new mentors, I have this mantra. It's actually written on my wall over here, which is: the quality of your life is the quality of your questions. The quality of your life is the quality of your questions. And I truly believe that. A lot of mentorship is not telling people what to do, right? I'll pause there and let me just zoom out for a second. So there's a difference between mentorship and coaching, right? Mentorship, let's start with coaching. So coaching is having a deep personal relationship with your student, your coach-student kind of interaction, right? In sports, you know, you don't have a coach that just appears for 30 minutes and then leaves. It's a long relationship that sees you through to a competitive advantage, right? And in those cases, a coach is really there to observe you, give you honestly brutal feedback and say, look, these are your weaknesses. You really need to like step up here, and this is how you go do that. That's not what a mentor does. A mentor, especially on Growth Mentors, right? I've had repeat sessions, and it's always awesome when I have repeat sessions. But a lot of mentees are kind of 1 or 2 sessions with me. And what they're really coming to me with is a specific problem, right? It's not, my life is a mess, can you help me?
Fix it.
Like, I have this problem. You from your profile, you have the skills or experience that you've maybe solved it before. Let's have a chat and work through this problem. So that, again, as we discussed before, I get a different perspective. I can see the problem in a different light, and then I can attack it a different way. So really, I always hesitate to give direct advice because as well with mentorship, you don't have the feedback loop, and you don't have the metrics from their data. You know, you don't have that long-term relationship that a coach would. So really, your role then is to ask questions and listen to what they are saying. Pick up on small nuances where their expression changes, or where they don't appreciate yet the pain and the actual problem we're talking about lies, right? Often people who are too close to a problem just don't actually see what the problem is. They think it's all of this, when really it's just completely different, right? So often it's about asking just asking good questions to get to the crux of the issue. So my advice to new mentors is get familiar with questions. Collect questions. Like, I do this all the time. I picked this up from Tim Ferriss, by the way. I'm a big Tim Ferriss fan. He does the same. So if ever I'm reading an interview or browsing the web, whatever. And, it's maybe not a great interview, but there's a great question in there that really just cut to the core of the issue and just made someone kind of stop and oh, yeah, you're totally right. Yeah, okay, now I see things. Often that's it, right? But also, if it gets to a point where you've asked enough questions and you can see the problem clearly together, and then you can navigate the conversation to be like, well, let's lay out the options. You've got A, B, and C. What are you going to do? There's a skill to kind of top and tailing a mentor session as well, right? So I'll always ask mentees to give me as much context at the beginning. So as soon as they request, they give me a bit of context on the GrowthMentor platform. This is my problem. This is what I've tried before. But I don't know their business. I don't know, I don't know the ins and outs. And to be frank, we don't have the time to go super, super in depth with that. So I'll always ask, I've got a template of a few questions of like, give me the business model, give me like how you make money, what is the ultimate conversion goal for the business, why does the business exist? And then we can go from there, right? So that's kind of the prelim that allows me to come to the conversation, come to the mentee-mentor relationship prepared. That's always super important, because you don't want to waste time on a half an hour or an hour call just going through like the basics, right? Then when you're on the call, you can really dig into the meat. As I just said, you can ask the best questions that apply to the situation. And once you're towards identifying what the crux of the matter is, then you can lay out those options, and always a really, really good resource that I'd recommend mentors read is Nonviolent Communication. Excellent book in a way of, it's not an amazing title, but actually what it helps you do is frame things so that you reach a level of understanding and you can hear people's needs, not the words that they're saying, but the needs and the pain behind it, right? So always try and mirror back what someone's saying so you have immediate understanding and you can move on. Where I think where communication often breaks down is when someone said something, you've totally misinterpreted it, and now you're off in different directions. And honestly, that just wastes time.
Yeah, absolutely.
It just wastes time on when your time is valuable on these calls. It's yeah. So always mirror back, like what I'm hearing is, and what your needs and pain are is this, and they'll go, oh yeah, that's it, great, okay. Now we could lay out some options, and then the call to action is on them. It's what is your decision? What are you going to do now? And how we'll always end a call is make sure that the mentee mirrors back what they've taken away from the session, what they're going to do next, and invite them to also follow up with you. Send me a message, book another call with me, and we can follow up once you've got some feedback and results. And don't make this a single interaction. Let's have another interaction.
I totally agree with that one. I always look, if you don't want to do another call, find me on LinkedIn. Just let's chat. Let me know how things go. Because otherwise, what's the point of yeah, go and do that, and I don't care what happens. It's like,
yeah.
Part of mentoring is just that you care. I mean, there's a reason why you're there, right? You care about what you're saying.
Exactly.
I wanted to ask you one more thing before we come to the end of the show. Where do people can find your content or your stuff besides GrowthMentor? Right, we know that people can book a call with you, but where do you spend most of your time on the marketing side, on social media? Do you still do it?
Mostly LinkedIn or Twitter. Really, those are my two channels. So people can find me there. One thing we haven't spoken about, but Marcos, if we do another round, I would love to dig into with you is personal knowledge management. So I'm going to publicly announce this because I'm holding myself accountable right now. But I'm writing a lot about personal knowledge management, about note making, note taking, and how you build your second brain in paper. So very soon, I will have a dedicated website that shows all of my kind of advice and my experience, my journey through this building of my second brain.
That is awesome. That is awesome. I'm going to add all of your details on the comments so people can follow you and find out more about that. And this is a great time to announce also that we're going to be doing this roundtable with GrowthMentor. So we're going to have more than just one. We're going to have 3 or 4 mentors, and we're all going to be talking about different subjects. So you're more than invited to one of these, because I think we can have great conversations and great discussions and debate with other mentors. So
I'd love to.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Morgan, well, thanks a lot for your time, man. Again, I catch up with what's going on with blockchain and Web3, which is something that I haven't done in ages. And I love your take on how to really help, like how to really focus on the questions. And I'll do a summary anyways after this. But
yeah, actually, one more thing. I don't know if you can edit this and slice it in, but if not, no worries. But one more thing that came to mind I want to share with new mentors. The value of the mentor platform for me is I get to hear a lot of mentees' different problems, and that for me is super exciting, super energizing. It's the ladder agency experience that I don't get because I'm in a single business now and integrated into one thing. So for me, that's such a high value. But also it's the reviews, right? Let's be honest. The reviews are so powerful. If ever I'm doing a freelance gig or need someone to kind of do a bit of background check on me, pass a sniff test. Is this guy really who he says he is? The reviews are so powerful in showing people, yes, I'm not a scam artist. I'm not tricking you. I'm not going to steal your money. I've worked with plenty of people and this is what they say about me. So there's a trick to getting a really good review, right?
Ooh, I need to hear this one.
Yeah, this is a trick. And I credit John again, Positive John, to this. He very much taught me this. So when you're doing that summary at the end of a call, you've laid out the options, you've gone through the call, get the mentee to mirror back to you exactly the key highlights of the call. What are their key takeaways? And they'll go, they'll scratch their head, they'll pause for a minute. Oh yeah, okay, we talked about this and you gave me these options, and so I'm going to go do this. Great. Then you say to them, put that in my review.
I'm going to try that because I'm one away for my second stage. So I definitely need that extra one. That's a great advice. I'm not even going to include this afterwards. I think this is the perfect way to sort of close this idea of talking about not just your experience, but the leadership and mentorship behind all of us that make GrowthMentor. So again, man, thanks a lot for a great conversation. I hope to talk to you soon. We're going to for sure invite you to this roundtables that are coming soon.
Thank you.
That's all, brother. Take care.
Thank you, Marcos. Amazing. Thank you.
All right. That's another great conversation in my book. I love the way Morgan really has an attitude that makes you believe and trust on the things that he's saying. I want to do a quick swoop so we go back and see what are the things I'm taking from this conversation. So, sorry. All right. To start with the questions. Ask questions. If you're in the mentoring world or you're trying to mentor someone, the main thing you want to do is just ask a lot of questions. You really need to understand the context of where people is working, what are they doing, why are they doing that, before you are able to really provide some relevant help. The other thing is, it was great to catch up and know that blockchain and crypto, there are things that they're still alive. I mean, I didn't believe them and I still have my doubts, but the way Morgan explained them is there's a lot of relevance and there's a lot of development happening still that it might not hit us right now, but the work being done is something that's going to make a big difference in the future. And of course, trust. And this is something I ask him on purpose, is like, how am I going to trust marketing of things like blockchain, for example, when they're not really tangible? And that is something you develop through marketing. Having the right tone of voice, having the right message is going to help you to create a trust and open this little gate, create a bridge, if you may, between you and your customer, and is the key for any, not only blockchain and crypto, for any product or anything that you're doing. Trust is going to make the biggest difference in your marketing and in your business in general. So yeah, those are the three things: questions, blockchain still alive, and trust. You gotta trust. So let me finish this up quickly. All right, so we are still going strong. We're still bringing more and more guests to our podcast. I have incredible guests coming right in the next couple of weeks. So I want to invite you one more time to subscribe to our channels, to subscribe to the podcast, and to start a conversation with us. We love talking to you. Make sure you join the Growth Mentor Network if you have any questions or if you want to share your knowledge. So my name is Marcus. This is Passing the Torch, and I will see you next time. Cheers.